Our protagonist wasn't some unlucky guy dragged into an apocalypse, he saw it coming. Literally. After a mysterious soul tried to hijack his body, Fernan fought back and won. But that's when things got weird. He gained the intruder's memories, and with them, visions of a future where the world burns, 72 demon kings rise. And he ends up broke. That's where Fernan draws the line. Armed with fragments of a prophetic book, he starts cross-referencing future disasters like an investment analyst. If the end of the world is coming, he's going to profit from it. And step 1? Track the hero down before anyone else does, and invest in him. Now here's where things get wild. Our boy is a top student at the Imperial Academy's magic department and heir to one of the most powerful families in the Empire. He's got elite education, all the right connections, and yeah, more gold than he knows what to do with. However, what really sets him apart isn't just his wealth. It's his obsession with it. People straight up call him the money fiend. One morning during a routine guild meeting, he scolds everyone for slacking. It feels like a typical day until things suddenly take a turn. While walking with his assistant under a clear sky, a bolt of lightning strikes him. The hit knocks the air out of him and leaves his mind spinning. In that moment of weakness, a strange soul slips into his body. Both Fernan and the intruder are confused, trying to figure out what's going on. The soul thinks it's in the middle of a possession. Fernan has no idea what that means, but quickly gets that it's trying to take over. He pushes back with the last of his mana and forces it out. The clash triggers a rush of strange memories that slam into his head, leaving him with a brutal headache. He snaps awake and his assistant asks if he's alright. Then, out of nowhere, a weird text pops up in front of him. It's a full-on prophecy about the world ending, 72 demon kings rising, and Fernan losing all his money by teaming up with a demon. To him, that's basically worse than dying. He refuses to accept a future where he goes broke and starts digging into the soul's identity and those weird memories, but turns up nothing. Still, he's convinced the prophecy is real. Every prediction so far has checked out and even helped him rack up some nice profits. But something feels off. If the rest of it plays out, he's headed for a serious crash. He needs to find out if the prophecy is actually spot on. Later, his assistant offers him coffee and he agrees, reaching for the newspaper to scan for news on the academy. The assistant senses something's off and asks if he's okay. Fernan says he is. The assistant points out that he has been acting strangely for about half a year, spacing out and making odd decisions. He says it's probably the after effects of being struck by lightning. Fernan says all of his strange choices turned out right. He spots an Armian from his family and the army applying to the academy, which confirms everything. Without warning, he bolts off when his assistant asks what's going on. Fernan says he's heading south for a quick trip. The Imperial Academy sits on Bardian, an island in the Empire's inland sea shaped entirely by magic. Its southern part is characterized by extensive wetlands. Fernan says today's the day he confirms if the prophecy is real. 3 things bother him the most, all pointing straight to his downfall. Just thinking about it makes him mad, but then he pauses and lists them properly. First is the part where he becomes a beggar. Second is the return of the 72 demons summoned by Solomon 1,000 years ago. And third is the arrival of a savior who will fight the demons. That guy is a descendant of Carlino's Armian, the Empire's first emperor. The House of Armian once helped build the Empire in 5 kingdoms, but now only the name remains. The prophecy says this descendant, Armian, is the chosen one. After the academy exam, he didn't return. Instead, he went straight to the southern wetlands. He joined to follow the clues left by the first emperor. From that point on, strange things kept happening around him like scenes from a novel. Fernan thinks the best way to confirm the prophecy is to watch him closely. Armian is also tied to Fernan's downfall. The prophecy says he'll be the one to hand Fernan his excommunication. Worse, Fernan has no idea why Armian would hate him. Some parts of the prophecy are unreadable, so he's stuck guessing what might happen. It claims Fernan teams up with a demon, but that doesn't seem right. As Fernan gets off his horse, he mutters that the place should be closed. Armian is nearby, searching for a hidden dungeon in the wetlands. Inside is a weapon from the Armian legacy, a sword holding the spirit of the Empire's first royal knight, Gardener Alphen. If the prophecy is true, then Armian is the one destined to save the world and become a legendary hero. Fernan says that if the guy wasn't strong enough to fight demons, he would have found him and crushed him already, since this so-called hero is the reason he ends up broke. Fernan smells blood and remembers the prophecy that said Armian would get hurt by a croaker on the way to the dungeon. Even if he's meant to be a hero, his powers haven't kicked in yet. Croakers rule the swamp, so the fight must have been rough. Following the trail, Fernan sees blood near a tree and figures it might be the dungeon entrance. So far, everything lines up with the prophecy. He steps closer to check if Armian's inside, but spots him standing nearby. Surprised, he wonders why Armian hasn't gone in yet and if he came too early. Trying to stay confident, Fernan tells him this is a restricted area for freshmen. Armian asks if they know each other. Fernan says everyone in the Empire knows him. Armian apologizes, saying he doesn't recognize him and asks for his name. When Fernan tells him, Armian reacts with surprise. Fernan reminds him he's his senior. Our hero notices he's injured and asks if it was a lizard man, but Armian says it was a croaker. Fernan calls that unlucky since they're rare and tosses him a high-grade potion, telling him it's worth more than 10 cheap ones. Armian calls him young lord, but Fernan tells him to just use his name. He adds that he doesn't want money. Even if Armian's house has fallen, he still carries imperial blood, so Fernan considers it an investment. Armian comments that Fernan doesn't seem like the greedy guy the rumors say he is. He thanks him, but Fernan just grumbles about how wasteful he's being and how it's all because of that cursed prophecy. Our boy warns him to be careful on his way back. Armian bows and leaves, but Fernan doesn't actually leave. He hides nearby and erases his presence, then watches Armian drink the potion and enter the dungeon. A bit later, Fernan heads in. The place is real, and with no traps or signs of danger, it's already been cleared. The dungeon is lit with magic lamps, but the mana is nearly gone. He picks one up and sees it's absorbing mana very slowly. These rare semi-permanent lamps are expensive, and he wonders why Armian left them behind. Fernan remembers how clueless the kid looked earlier and starts doubting if he can really save the world. The prophecy said Armian entered the dungeon injured and collapsed at the entrance. He drank all his potions, but they were cheap and didn't fully heal him. Still, he kept going. At the end, he found a plain sword on an altar. It didn't look special, but he couldn't take his eyes off it. It felt like it was calling to him. When Armian grabbed the sword, light filled the dungeon. He blinked and suddenly found himself in an alley at the Imperial Academy. Our boy sees faint magic traces and the altar still marked where the sword was, but Armian is gone. Everything lines up with the prophecy, which means his prophecies are real too. Fernan scratches his head and mutters that he really is going to end up a beggar. Armian is the prophesied hero meant to save the world, but he's also the one behind Fernan's downfall. For now, his reputation is on the rise. The prophecy paints him as someone unlike the man Fernan met. He values honor over wealth, so brushing in could backfire. Fernan isn't sure how to handle him. He says it's a tricky situation, and his assistant, Hyde, asks what he means. Fernan explains there's a top-tier stock guaranteed to grow, and if given the chance, what would Hyde do? Hyde answers that he'd invest without hesitation. Fernan then asks what if the stock has a terrible personality. Hyde replies that it doesn't matter. The Duke always said that even the most stubborn personalities can be adjusted with money. Fernan agrees, only the demons and world-ending stuff make things messy. The main goal remains the same: take risks and earn big. Personality clashes are worth it if the returns are high, but he still needs more on Armian. He grabs his coat and says he's going to meet him. Hyde reminds him that a guest is coming, but Fernan leaves anyway. Hyde sighs, saying he's overthinking the prophecy again. At the academy, dorms are assigned based on exam rankings. Ranks 1 to 10 stay in Ravidos, the top elite dorm. Ranks 11 to 30 stay in the Blessed dorm. The rest, ranked below 30, stay in the Debes dorm, often referred to as the dorm for scraps. Inside the sword, Gardener Alphen yells at Armian. He's furious that a descendant of the Armians is stuck in the lowest dorm at their own academy. He says if the Emperor knew, he'd rise from the grave and cut down the demons behind this. Armian says he's just weak. The Gardener doesn't believe it and doubts that an Armenian could be so powerless. Armian blames the first Emperor for ending the royal line and giving power to the 7 electorates. Most land and wealth were handed over and never returned. The Armians lost their status and secret sword skills. Though Armian is an elector, he never got proper training. Gardener says he still has talent and promises to help him recover their name. He even wonders if the Emperor planned all this and placed Armian here for a reason. Someone knocks. Fernan calls out, asking if Armian's inside. Both Gardener and Armian wonder who it is. When Fernan says his name, Armian opens the door and asks why he's here. Fernan asks if he's busy. Armian says no. Fernan says good, but it's too noisy here, and they should go somewhere quiet. Armian tells him to wait 10 minutes. Fernan complains it's too long and calls him undisciplined. Armian changes it to 5. Fernan says he'll be outside and shuts the door. Armian sighs, knowing he won't wait quietly. The Gardener asks who it was. Armian says it's the eldest Pellenberg's son. Gardener scoffs, calling them rich brats who act superior just because of money. He's annoyed by their boss around her royal hair. Armian, meanwhile, is just trying to figure out why Fernan wants to meet. It can't be about the potion money since Fernan called it an investment. Later at their meeting, Fernan sees Armian bring his sword and asks about it. Armian says he just feels safer with it and means no harm. Fernan knows knights stick to their swords and figures it's the one with Gardener's ego. Armian asks why he called him. Fernan says he was thinking about dinner and told him to order something. Armian hesitates, saying the place looks expensive. Fernan insists and says not to refuse his senior's offer. Armian nods and checks the menu. As he reads, Fernan watches him. He seems quiet and naive, and Fernan wonders how this kid ends up being the one from the prophecy. He asks what Armian plans to do after graduation. Armian looks surprised, so Fernan explains that most students are here to gain influence. The Armian family avoided social circles and focused on maintaining their bloodline strength, so seeing one here is unusual. Armian says he's tired of being seen as a fallen royal. Their blood is still imperial, even if only in name. That's why he wants to become a royal knight and restore their honor. Fernan notices the shift in his eyes and sees he's more determined than he seemed. He's not as naive as Fernan thought. Fernan casually asks if Armian has any allergies. They chat for a bit and share a light moment. Later, Fernan reflects on him. He once thought of sponsoring Armian, but knows that would hurt his pride. Armian values honor, so money won't be enough. For someone like him, Fernan decides it's better to build trust slowly, wait for the right time, and then use his money to take what he needs. Back at the estate, Hyde asks where he was and if he met Birchef. Fernan says no and asks why she came up. Hyde reminds him he summoned Luina for slacking off. Fernan asks if that was today. Hyde says yes and adds she waited 3 hours. She probably thinks it was a setup to break her spirit. Fernan says that's fine. That will make her easier to control. He's put too much into binding the Birchefs to stop now. Suddenly, Fernan grabs his head in pain. Hyde asks if he's okay. Fernan says he's not sure, but it hurts a lot. The prophecy reveals new parts. It shows a woman with long brown hair and aquamarine eyes. Her sword is noble and alive. She danced under the moonlight and Armian was drawn to her. Her skill matched that of a royal knight, but she held darkness inside. If the chains holding her broke, she reached full power. Those chains are the Pellenberg family and Armian must free her. Fernan stares at the prophecy stunned. He mutters that this must be why Armian ends up hating him because of Luina. He sighs knowing things just got messier. Luina's annoyed cause Fernan ditched her yesterday and now he's called her again. She's deep in debt and thinks he's just trying to wear her down. Fernan spots her and knows she's furious. The Birchef family once held the title of Border Counts and was one of 7 prince-electors. They defended the empire's north but lost everything after monster waves destroyed their land. To recover, they sold their golden patent but still fell short. The Pellenbergs stepped in, not to help but to gain power. They blocked other nobles from offering support. The Birchefs took a huge loan. It saved them, but the heavy interest ruined their lives. Fernan wonders if pushing a bit more would have made them hand over their swordsmanship secrets. Luina, of all people, is also destined to be Armian's lover. That alone makes him pause. Even if he doesn't care about the swordsmanship, her connection to Armian means he can't risk letting her hate him. He walks in, apologizes for missing their meeting, and says he genuinely forgot. She says that's enough and asks why he called her. Fernan says she already knows. He thinks about how to win her over and starts phase 1 of his plan. He brings up the joint a class in the second year between the magic and night departments. She instantly refuses. He's surprised and asks how she knew what he was going to say. Luina says it's obvious. He wants her as his partner, but she won't accept. As second in the department, she has better choices than someone ranked 10th. Fernan makes his offer. If Luina partners with him for 3 years, he'll cancel all interest on her debt, but only if she accepts him as her sponsor. She asks why he wants both roles. He says joint classes are important and worth 5 credits. She says that's not the point. He still wants to sponsor her even though she's on a scholarship. Fernan reminds her that most of that money goes to her family and she lives poorer than commoners. He says it's just an investment in her talent. Luina says nobles don't usually sponsor other nobles. She values loyalty like Armian. Fernan says the Birchef family may have honor, but not the status of former royalty. She asks if he's insulting her. He explains their families are directly connected, unlike Armian's, so whether she likes it or not, she'll have to accept. He tells her this isn't the time to be proud. She's talented, and he means that even if she resents him. Phase 2 begins. Fernan says he saw her sword dance and calls it noble and beautiful. Her eyes light up. He says it looked alive and he still can't forget the first time he saw it. He starts getting poetic. She cringes and tells him to cut it out. He says he can't until he finds the perfect word. Flustered, she finally agrees to be his partner just to shut him up. Mission complete. Later, her maid reads the contract. It offers 3 years of waived interest, private sponsorship, and ends after graduation. All Luina has to do is be his partner. She says it's too good to pass up and that Fernan saw something in her sword dance. The maid asks what exactly he saw. Luina says he called it noble and beautiful and still hasn't found the right word. The maid gets annoyed, thinking he's trying to charm her, but admits he has taste. Luina denies it's romantic. The maid insists he's using his looks and intense stare to win her over. As the maid keeps ranting, Luina asks if maybe she's the one who likes him. The maid says she's just being cautious. With all the interest gone, Luina says she'll put up with it. The maid also reminds her she's ranked 2nd, while Fernan is only 10th. Just then, there's a knock. Hyde appears and says Fernan is waiting for her at the training grounds. The maid frowns as Luina looks toward the door, wondering what he's up to now. Luina can't tell what Fernan's planning. In the training room, he's geared up with a staff. He points out that she has always ranked 2nd and never beaten Almond Donnerts, a top student. But he thinks she has what it takes to be one of the continent's royal knights and wants to see it for himself. Luina walks over, still confused. Fernan says he wants her to see the benefits of partnering with him and prove he's not as far below her as she thinks. She wonders if he plans to prove that by beating her. He may be 10th, but qualifying for Lavish Hall means he's a skilled individual. Still, the gap between them is real. He says he understands and tells her to begin. She grips her sword and says, "Bring it on." He starts casting a spell. Magic circles form above her, and rocks fly her way. She slices through them in one swing and charges straight at him. As the debris falls, she continues to cut through it and moves closer. She spots his next magic circle and swings, but Fernan vanishes and reappears across the arena. She's shocked to see the circle untouched and the floor under her cracking. She quietly admits she's surprised. That formation has layered magic, and most spells can't even deny it. Watching him get ready again, she starts to wonder if he's been hiding his real strength all this time. Rocks keep tumbling as a blinding light flashes in front of Luina. She can't believe her eyes. Fernan isn't just multicasting. He's chaining high-level spells like it's a walk in the park. She starts wondering how much mana this guy really has. No way he's only ranked 10th. Looks like she really underestimated him, and at this rate, she's about to lose. Suddenly, her eyes glow blue, and a matching aura whips up a wind barrier around her. Fernan raises an eyebrow, clearly surprised, but then he grins. The training area starts falling apart, but she keeps moving, hopping from one falling rock to another as she charges straight at him. Fernan keeps casting spells like he's all in. The moment the panel shows her zipping toward him, his staff just drops to the ground. She stops right in front of him, clearly annoyed. He looks up and coolly says he surrenders. She thinks he's just messing with her, but he insists he's serious. He's out of mana. A mage with 0 mana is no match for a knight. She studies him for a moment. He's completely wiped out, can barely lift a finger. Technically, she blocked all of his spells and landed the final hit, so it's her win. But still, something about this feels off. Fernan pulls out a box of whiskey chocolates, saying he heard she likes sweets. If she's not into those, he'll bring something else. She starts drooling and asks if he did a background check. He laughs and says he just looked into all the top-ranked students. She grumbles that it still counts and calls him a stalker. Rolling her eyes, she says she can't believe he's giving her chocolate like she's a kid. He tells her she doesn't have to take it, but she snatches it anyway, saying she never said no. He laughs, saying maybe they can actually get along. Then she gets serious and asks the real question. Why is someone with that much mana and spell power only ranked 10th? He just smiles and says it's simple. A merchant doesn't need the spotlight. Later, Fernan's broken staff is sitting on his desk when Hyde walks in. He notices it and asks what happened. Fernan explains he dueled Luina, and she turned out to be way stronger than he expected. He came prepared, but everything got wrecked. She drained all of his mana and was still standing. Hyde raises an eyebrow and questions why Fernan used rare items in a simple duel and if Luina is really worth it. Fernan just casually says it's an investment. When Hyde presses for more, Fernan says he'll explain later. Hyde starts to wonder if Fernan's still feeling the effects of the lightning strike. But in Fernan's head, he's just thinking about how amazing Luina's sword was. Armian was right. Her sword is fast, graceful, and looks noble right off the bat. He finally gets why his dad is so obsessed with their sword art. She's clearly talented, but he wonders why she's not ranked first. Maybe it's her awful gear. He zones out, ignoring Hyde, who then asks what he's planning to tell the Duke. That sword art has been his dad's obsession for years. Fernan admits he didn't think it was a big deal, but now he's freaking out, wondering if his dad might disown him. Hyde laughs and says no, he'll probably just kill him instead. Fernan shrugs it off, saying there's no way his dad would go that far. Still, he sends a letter, already imaging his dad losing it. He's stressed, but tries to keep it chill. A few days later, the reply arrives and Fernan's shocked it came so fast. Hyde starts tearing up, claiming this might be his last day as Fernan's assistant. Fernan asks if there's a separate message. Hyde, still sniffling, says no. Fernan tries to calm him down, insisting this isn't the reason he get disowned. The prophecy clearly states he'd be excommunicated for working with a demon, and this has nothing to do with that. But then he checks out the letter. His dad already thinks he's possessed. Now he's freaking out and says he needs to meet up ASAP. He can't let anything link him to a demon, but there's no way he can explain the prophecy. The book doesn't even exist physically, and if he brings it up, his dad will either laugh or blow a gasket. He has to sort this out quickly. When they finally meet, his dad says he looks way too chill and jokes that either Fernand's on something, the demon's back, or some crazy stuff has happened. If none of that is true, he better start talking. Fernand says he made an investment in Birchef. His dad asks what could be more valuable than the sword art. Fernand says he can't tell him. His dad reminds him this isn't some casual convo. He's about to mess with the family's future. Fernand gets that, but insists he stands by his choice. If he plays the Birchef deal right, the payoffs will be bigger than the sword art. His dad wants to know why Fernand's so sure. Fernand just repeats he can't say. His dad calls it ridiculous and says he didn't raise him to gamble everything on a whim. This isn't something he can fix just by being stubborn. Fernand knows he's out of options now. He didn't want to pull the prophecy card yet, but he needs some leverage. So he says this isn't a tantrum. He'll take full responsibility for the Birchef deal if his dad agrees to hear something only he knows. His dad asks what kind of info. Fernand says he runs a private intel group. His dad scoffs, saying it's probably worse than their own network, and asks what's so special that Fernand's willing to throw Birchef away. Fernand says there's a hidden magic crystal mine west of the Eris Mountains on Viscount Donet's land. His dad says there's never been anything like that reported in the area and asks how Fernand found it with a bunch of kids playing spy. Fernand stays cool and says sometimes kids dig around and actually find stuff. This time, they hit the jackpot. That mountain isn't just valuable, it can cover all of Birchef's losses and still rake in more. It's practically a gold mine. Magic Stone is this super valuable ore that has mana in it. People say it's the best ore out there and can really rake in the cash. However, the whole Magic Stone situation in the Eris Mountains is only mentioned briefly in some prophecy. He hasn't actually seen it yet, so he has no clue how big it is. But hey, at least it buys him some time. He goes on to say that the ship and operator got sunk, which might actually help them score the mine if they play their cards right. He's stalling the prophecy reveal to buy himself a little more time. His dad tells him they need to check it out first, so he suggests his son go study up and says he'll call them back when he knows more. As our guy heads out, he wonders if he managed to cool his dad's anger or if he just shaved 10 years off his life. Just when he thinks he's in the clear, his dad suddenly calls him back, making him freak out. He turns around, worried he messed something up. But then his dad says they might as well grab a meal together since they're already there. He's a bit let down because the black turtle couldn't figure out what our guy found. The assistant says he'll double-check with the intel team. The father tells him to chill and asks what he thinks about Fernand. The assistant mentions that the Duke is trying to strike a deal with him and seems to have cleaned up his act. He can't believe what he just discovered. They'll look into the Fernand crew later. He also brings up the Golden Pillar, which is our guy's gang. His dad knows he gets that betting can rake in a lot of cash. That's why he went for Earth Mage, even though he's way better with fire. While checking the info, the assistant points out that our guy has really expanded the Golden Pillar beyond what anyone expected. The dad feels proud and wonders who would have thought he'd pull off something so amazing. He tells the assistant to dig into Luina and find out how she managed to charm our guy. When asked if he's in love with her, the dad says there's no point in getting too invested. So if he did it without any real reason, it's probably just the infatuation of youth. But the dad has a feeling it's not the whole story. He starts to think about what it could actually be, because what could a guy who cares about money more than his own dad possibly want? So our guy is telling Luina that all their classmates are getting emotional over Alia and Carlos hooking up. Alia's ranked 4th in the night department, moving up from 5th. She mentions that everyone's saying she paired up with Carlos for his money, and while she gets it, she's just gonna have to deal with the gossip. Our guy admits it's true. It's all about the money for him. He starts to think, no wonder they call him a money demon. Maybe that's why she's got issues with him. Then he pulls out something that catches her by surprise. It's an elixir made from mandrake roots and a voucher for his company's weapon shop, where she can snag some top-notch gear. She's curious about why he's being so generous, and he reminds her of their contract. But she's like, what contract? She's confused about why everyone's acting all weird. He reiterates that it's tied to their contract, but she insists it's too much. From his expression, it looks like he thinks so too, but he just denies it. He claims he's helping to avoid going broke, and if she gets strong enough to tackle demons with him, that'd be awesome. She insists it's too much and says she can't take it, but he warns that refusing the sponsorship breaks their deal. That gets her riled up, and she reluctantly agrees to accept it. With that, our boy heads out, saying they'll catch up in class. He starts to think that even if it's about sponsorship, it could get pricey. She's thinking too. Maybe there's some hidden penalty, or maybe he's just trying to pull a fast one to impress her. Or maybe he's got a thing for her. Either way, she's determined not to let him pull it off. So he rolls into class, wondering why Armian isn't making headlines too, but then bam, Armian shows up. It's the first lecture for the first year night department, which is infamous for measuring how skilled the students really are. According to the prophecy, once Armian boosts his ego, he'll start shining and get noticed. The whole hero journey where he eventually saves the world is kicking off for real. Out of nowhere, someone jumps in, surprised to see our boy. The guy calls him Your Majesty. It's been a hot minute since they caught up. He asks what's going on and mentions it's not everyday people keep tabs like this. Our boy says he's always on the lookout for the top students and asks if he came to check out Armian. Grinning, the guy says yeah. Turns out they're both from the Imperial family. He's Ludger, the second prince of the current Imperial family. The Schweben family has been on the throne for 3 generations now, so they've got the same roots as Armian. Ludger is all about authority, so having Armian around, who has even stronger legitimacy, feels like a threat to him. He admits he's curious about Armian too. Meanwhile, Kalbunder walks into the Med Academy as the second best student, looking for a shot to take Armian's spot as Elector. Our boy thinks it's all a bit too coincidental and wonders if this is where things start heating up between Ludger and Warren. In every hero's tale, there's always that one villain the main character has to take down. Armian is the chosen one from the prophecy, while Kalbunder is stepping up as the next bad guy. Someone shouts out to Dern and Armian, and our guy starts thinking this might be the spot where Armian's adventure really kicked off. When the lecture gets announced, he figures it's time to find out if the prophecy about Armian becoming a winner actually holds up and if he made the right call by putting his faith in him. As the signal blares, Dern charges at Armian to land a hit, but Armian's quick on his feet and blocks it just in time. Dern goes straight for his head, but Armian expertly dodges that brutal swing. Ludger comments on how the sparring partners are picked randomly and claims Armian's pretty lucky to face Dern. With Dern finishing 10th in the entrance exam, he's a tough match for Armian, who's sitting at 38th place. But Ludger doesn't think much will come of it. Still, our guy figures there's more to see here. Armian lunges in to attack, jumping right at Dern and catches him on the head. He manages to smack him, but all he does is rip a chunk out of Dern's shirt. Ludger's eyes widen at that. Our guy wonders if Armian got thrown off by all that aggression at the start. That confusion shows he's still learning the ropes. But once he gets his act together, he flips the fight on Dern, and that's impressive against a guy who's top 10. Armian's getting stronger, but just holding his ground isn't enough to save the Imperial family's reputation. Ludger can hardly believe it. Someone ranked 38th is making a top 10 student pull out his aura. Our guy thinks Armian's got talent for sure, he just never had the right support. He knows Armian's the one the prophecy talks about, the real deal in this world. Armian starts off a little tentative, but then he takes down Dern in no time. The professor declares Armian the winner. He's the one chosen by the prophecy, and our guy can practically hear the cash piling up. He just needs to guide Armian, team up with him, and try to win over Luna too. Meanwhile, a couple of minions are chatting about our guy and Luina. They say he's been getting a lot of attention lately. If she really took the elixir and switched up her gear, she must be pumped about it. But when asked, she just plays it cool, saying it was okay. Out of nowhere, a girl pipes up, pointing out that everyone seems to have paired up nicely. That's Professor Roselia from the Magic Department. With her is Professor Grad from the Meg Department. They're teaming up for a joint class, and as they kick things off, they hand out maps to the students. The first lesson is all about practical exercises. There's no better way to see what they've learned than to put it to use. Each student gets a map with a real location marked, and they got to reach it in exactly 4 hours. No earlier, no later, it has to be at 2 p.m. sharp. One of the minions asks if this task will count toward their grades, and the professor says yes. Another one wonders if students can clash during this, and the professor replies they could even snag bonus points for catching each other. With that, everyone heads out without wasting any time. Soon, our guy and Luina find themselves in front of this stunning landscape, and they're both confused about where they are. Luina brings up the map, and they run into 2 classmates who just barely miss being in the top 70. They start to wonder if it's even worth their time dealing with these lower-ranked students. That surprises them both. Our guy usually wouldn't just walk away, but this time, he decides to go along with Luina's choice. At least they score some weapons and a shot at snagging extra points. Our guy is curious if using magic would make things easier. Luina asks if there's any magic to show them where they are, but he figures they just need to get to a higher spot to scout around. Meanwhile, a couple of minions who spot them choose to bail, but Luina isn't wasting any time. She jumps right in to get those bonus points. The minions start panicking and try to defend themselves, but they end up getting taken out. Turns out there was actually a defensive spell on the map. Over on the other side, that pair gets wiped out. Seriously, students are dropping like flies. They're not getting knocked out by monsters. The real reason people are dropping out is because they're fighting each other. Grad asks Roselia if she's got her eye on any pairs. She mentions Ludger and Alon and Carlos and Alia, but the pair that really has her intrigued is Luina and Fernan. They're definitely stirring things up among the students. Grad points out that Luina is at a disadvantage since Fernan doesn't seem too concerned about his grades. Roselia thinks there's probably more to it than that. Fernand's the kind of guy who can boost his scores whenever he wants without relying on Luina. Grad's curious and asks what she means. She explains that our guy is regularly ranked 10th, no matter what. It's not uncommon to see someone really talented stay on top, but it's odd to see someone never fall out of that spot. Plus, Fernand's written exams are nearly perfect, but he tends to lose points on practicals. She used to think he was just someone who didn't want to stand out, like he was hiding his true skills. Rosalia agrees and brings up the training ground that got wrecked recently. Turns out, Fernand was the one who destroyed it. Grad is shocked they were behind it. He still can't wrap his head around why our guy would hide his real talents. But now the big question is, why has he decided to stop hiding them? Our boy stands on a cliff just a few feet thick. He guesses the marked location on the map is at the northern coastal area. Down below, Luina seems to be causing more trouble. He thinks they must be in the western mountain region. Luina finishes beating up some more minions. At first, Rosalia thinks monsters are lurking around, but that's not the case at all. She takes a closer look and sees that two of the pairs Rosalia talked about earlier just crashed into each other. It's pretty eye-catching. Rosalia really wants to check out their skills in action for herself. In the middle of the showdown, both our guy and Luina are squaring off against another set of minions. Luina starts to feel like her body's a bit lighter than usual, and she's puzzled about why. Then it hits her. It's the support magic coming from her partner. She can't believe he pulled off support magic right in the middle of such a wild fight. Our boy gives her a quick wink right in the middle of everything, totally catching her off guard. It's wild how he's managing to throw out both offensive and support magic at the same time, even when chaos is all around. He just keeps smiling like it's no big deal. Meanwhile, one of the enemy minions, Carlos, charges in to attack, but Luina dodges him like it's nothing. She reminds herself to stay focused and not get distracted. Her goal is to take down Alia, so they clash swords and Alia starts to struggle a lot. On the other side, Carlos suddenly jumps in and lands a hit on Luina. A wave of magic wraps around her, making her freeze up. Alia thinks she's got this in the bag, but for Luina, it's no big deal. Just when Alia gets ready to strike, Luina swings her sword, but right before it connects, a rock pops up in her place. Everyone's stunned by what just happened. Our guy teleports Luina next to him, and she's still in shock. He explains that it's magic his family developed. It works by swapping things of the same weight. She's furious that he even knows her weight, but he tells her it was in the student records. Plus, he adds that the rock may look heavy, but it really isn't. Out of nowhere, they get hit by an attack from Carlos. Luina manages to dodge it and saves our guy too. She's fuming about the student records and says she'll just burn them. Our guy tells her to hold him right and move him carefully. He says he'll handle Alia and tells Luina to keep her eyes on Carlos. With that, he jumps back into action. He starts thinking about Carlos and his thing, summoning lightning. Carlos can multicast, combining a bunch of lightning strikes into this huge flare of light. It's crazy powerful. That's why he's the top student in the department. Our boy knows he has to do something to block it. He pulls out this random object and decides to go for a lightning strike counter. He shouts out his magic words and throws the thing. At the same time, Carlos is also chanting his own spell. A huge explosion goes off as Carlos attacks. But when the dust clears, our boy isn't even scratched. Carlos stands there, totally stunned that his attack actually got blocked. It was a storage device that soaks up mana, and our guy has tweaked it a bit to make it pretty effective. If he refined it some more, he could totally sell them on the market. Carlos is fuming, saying it's a coward's move. But our guy reminds him this is the real practice battle. Then he calls out to Luina, which totally catches Carlos off guard, and he just tells her to finish off Alia since she's already in a showdown with her. Meanwhile, Alan and Ludger are watching all the chaos unfold. No normal mage should be able to handle all that craziness. Ludger starts to realize that our boy is really starting to stand out. Now that he's teamed up with Luina, he can't hide his powers anymore. He's running out of options. If he unleashes his true strength, it's definitely going to boost his rank. Ludger knows his circle is packed with people who would jump at the chance to take him down. He can't let a potential rival get too strong. He tells his crew they'll get to their destination without a hitch. But before that can happen, there's one pair that needs to be dealt with, the duo of Luina and our guy. Our boy is taking down monsters like a champ. They're getting closer to their destination, and it seems like they'll make it on time. In the meantime, he's busy collecting some monster blood since it's a key ingredient for potions. He figures money is money, no matter how little. He even tries to rope Luina into helping out since it could be pretty profitable. At this point, they've already taken down 8 pairs. Luina reminds everyone why she's the top student. Suddenly, he senses something off. He looks up and sees people jumping at them. A barrier pops up just in time, allowing him to hold them off. Over on the other side, Luina is about to clash swords with Alan. They go at it hard, both of them giving it their all. Meanwhile, Ledger shows up on the battlefield and our boy jumps right into the action. They're both trading massive waves of mana, causing a huge explosion around them. Ledger comments that he was just planning to watch from the sidelines, but that's not the case anymore. He points out that our boy just took out half of their team and suggests they tone it down a bit. But our boy is laser focused on getting that first place. Ledger proposes they settle this peacefully since there's only an hour left. He suggests that he and Alan take first place while everyone else settles for second. But Luina isn't backing down. She'd rather lose after giving it her all than just give up. When the negotiation goes south, Ledger decides to put our boy to the test. But our boy tells him to hold off until next time. Suddenly, a huge mana circle appears beneath Ledger and his crew. They're swept up and crash to the ground. Our boy watches them, calm as can be. Ledger realizes he just walked into a trap and got taken down. He gets up as our boy tells him not to interfere anymore. Then both he and Luina make a beeline for their goal. With that, the practice test wraps up. Grad announces the results. Everyone did well, but first place goes to Luina and Ferdinand. Second place goes to Ledger and Alan. Luina mentions they didn't actually beat Alan directly, but our boy thinks first place is still first place, no matter how it went down. He figures it's still pretty awesome. As the test ends and they get ready to head back to the academy, Luina mentions Armian, saying she ran into him while training the other night. It was a weird situation, and it reminds her of the time our boy secretly watched her sword dance. That thought makes her lightly hit him, and suddenly another prophecy flashes in his mind. In this new vision, Armian reaches out to Luina, but she doesn't take his hand. Our boy is confused, especially when he sees monsters in the prophecy and realizes the story is shifting. He sees Armian calling out to Luina, asking her to be his knight, but she turns him down. She understands his fight and knows it's her destiny too. She says a knight is both the sword that strikes down the enemy and the shield that protects their lord. In the prophecy, Luina charges into the dungeon ruled by Andromalius, surrounded by a brilliant blue aura. Our boy notices the sword in the vision is changing too. Then he sees Luina lying in a bed, wounded, with Armian fuming beside her. Our boy starts to freak out. His prophecy feels way different. He snaps back to reality and Luina asks if he's okay since he suddenly collapsed. He brushes it off, saying he's fine. He realizes this might be the moment Armian starts seeing him as an enemy. Now he's wondering, why did he get another prophecy? Maybe something where someone is showing him what's about to come. Andromalius is one of the 72 demons, and now he's starting to wonder if he's really going to descend into this world, and if that's going to happen really soon. Sometime later, Hyde comes to take Fernan back home and congratulates him for taking first place. However, Fernan laments that he's very tired because he used up a lot of energy during the test. Because of that, Hyde suggests he take a nap and promises to wake him up when they reach Ledibus Hall. They soon begin their journey, but Fernan can't stop thinking about Andromalius, the 72nd of the 72 demons, who has black hair and black eyes. He recalls that Andromalius takes the form of a man with a snake around his right arm, but that's all Fernan knows about him, no matter how many books he checks. It's also understandable to him why there'd be little information about demons since the war against them happened 1,000 years ago. In the present time, people consider the existence of demons as a myth. The reason is that demons were completely sent away by the first emperor 1,000 years ago, and they've not been seen in this world since then. Even though he's worried about having little information, Fernan comforts himself that Armian will take care of them. But the thing that bothers him is that Rowena will get terribly injured in the fight against Andromalius, so he wonders if he should tell her what he knows. Eventually, he decides against it because he's not certain she'll believe him. He recalls that he had once tried to bring it up before. In a flashback, Rowena asks Fernan if he's fine, so he asks her if she believes in demons. Confused, she asks him why he's suddenly talking about demons, so he asks her again and she admits that she does because the Empire defeated them. When he asks her what she thinks about demons existing in the land, Rowena asks him if he hit his head during the practical training. In the present, he wishes he could get some trace of a demon, which he could use as evidence to convince her, and he recalls something. A month into the future, during a training match in the first-year night class, Armian will defeat Varen Calburden, the second top student. After that happens, no one in the academy will be able to go against Armian, and he'll gain a lot, while Calburden will lose a lot. Varen comes from a line of great Calburden knights, and the defeat will cause him to lose his reputation, honor, and even himself. Eventually, Calburden will get possessed by a demon after losing everything. Because of Varen's anger against Armian, a demon will manage to find its way in, and this will be the first time they'll be able to indirectly witness a demon in action. Fernan hopes to be able to use that incident to persuade people and get their support. He plans to use it as evidence and use it as a foundation to develop his plans. The only problem with that is he doesn't know the specifics of how Varen gets possessed, and it annoys him that he can't see that part in his vision. Our boy wonders if this part of the vision will become clear when the time is right, or if there's something he needs to do to gain access to it. The more he thinks about it, the more annoyed he gets. A while later, Armian reads the news about what happened during the joint test of the second-year night and magic departments. The author of the article wonders if Fernan was hiding his true powers and how Rowena and Fernan became a pair. This impresses Armian, and he believes that Rowena Birchev lives up to the Birchev name even if the family has lost its military rights. Meanwhile, Gardner believes the group getting first place is because of Rowena Birchev's strength and Fernan Fillenberg is just a show-off that didn't do jack. Intrigued, Armian points out that Gardner seems to like Birchev and hate Fillenberg, so Gardner tells him not to compare the two families. Apparently, the only knight who could stand on the battlefield along with him and the former emperor was a Birchev. However, Armian retorts that people seem to care more about Fillenberg than Birchev these days, and it annoys Gardner that they're in the end of days. Gardner explains that he would never have associated with a family like the Fillenbergs if it weren't for the war funds they provided during the war 1,000 years ago. Suddenly, Gardner gets a bright idea and tells Armian to go ask Fernan for some money, especially because his equipment looks worn out. That surprises Armian, but Gardner reminds him that Fernan is abnormally kind to him. After Armian corrects him that the guy's name is Fernan, Gardner ignores that and explains that this must mean that the Fillenberg family wants to establish connections with the Armian family. He clarifies that the Fillenbergs never come out to say what they want bluntly, but they build trust to make you vulnerable until they can catch you in their grasp. This intrigues Armian, so he asks Gardner if he's saying that Fernan approached him with ulterior motives, and Gardner affirms it. However, this doesn't make sense to Armian since his family is already ruined. His line of thought annoys Gardner, who asks him why he's always so self-aware. Gardner points out that Fernan's motive doesn't really matter as long as they can use him. This doesn't sink into Armian's head though when he claims that he doesn't believe Fernan approached him because he wants something. Apparently, when they first met, Fernan gave him a potion. When he was hurt by a monster, he looked like he was genuinely worried about him. Armian insists that asking such a person for money isn't an honorable thing to do, especially since trust can't be bought with money. This annoys Gardner, and he blurts out that Armian is a frustrating kid. Annoyed, Gardner slams himself at Armian, forcing him to shield himself with the paper. He reminds him that even the former emperor said it's a good thing to have a rich person backing a person, and he points out that the Fillenbergs aren't the kind to offer kindness without a reason. Gardner tells him to shut up and go ask Fernan for money because he'll probably hand it over to him like he's been waiting for him to ask. Shortly after, Armian heads out to meet Fernan, but he's told by Hyde that he can't meet him now because he's quite busy. Hyde clarifies that Fernan manages his family's guild and his studies, so he'll have to set an appointment. When Armian hears that, he asks Hyde to inform his master that he's the one who came to see him. Regardless, Hyde clarifies that he had already told Fernan, but he said Armian would have to return. Eventually, Armian leaves and angrily reminds Gardner that he said Fernan would give him money as if he'd been waiting, but now he's ended up as a disturbance. Gardner finds it strange for a Fillenberg to react like this. Meanwhile, Fernan watches from a window and considers Armian's appearance unexpected. He knows his bait wasn't tempting enough yet, and he didn't expect Armian to reach out to him first. Shortly after, Hyde reports back that he sent Armian away as requested. Eventually, he asks his master why he suddenly sent Armian back after watching him closely for a while, so Fernan responds that it's strange that Armian came to him so quickly. He knows that many people seek out Fillenberg for money, and he guesses Armian came for the same thing. But that makes it weirder because Armian isn't the kind of person to easily ask other people for help. Fernan explains that he sent him back because he has an odd feeling that he came against his own wish, so he'd rather wait to reel him in when he's sure that he has his trust. Intrigued, Hyde asks if a descendant of a fallen imperial family is worth all this trouble. So Fernan responds that Armian has very great talents that will come in handy if he can create an alliance with him. Still confused, Hyde asks if sending Armian away like this won't cause him to lose him, so Fernan explains that he'll leave an opening. Because of that, he tells Hyde to go get all the main family's elixirs for Armian from the warehouse. That shocks Hyde because the elixirs he's referring to are very expensive and it'd cause them great loss if nothing worthwhile comes out of this. To avoid this not being worthwhile, Fernan proposes that he just give Armian more money since everything can be achieved with the right amount of money. Later on, Gardner learns that Hyde had come to see Armian and had left him with a box and a note. Gardner wonders if it's an apology letter and finds it hard for a Fillenberg to have enough conscience to write an apology letter. When Armian opens it, the letter informs him of an elixir that Fernan made for him. Armian opens the box and becomes speechless when he realizes the elixir is the heart of the Saint Bird. Because the Saint Bird is a sacred bird that carries light, its power is perfect for the Armian sword style, which handles the power of light. It intrigues Gardner how much of a loan shark Fernan is, but he's glad that they got something from him. Suddenly, Armian becomes emotional that Fernan would cherish someone as worthless as him, and he pledges to work hard to meet his expectations. Behind him, Gardner thinks he's a complete idiot. Sometime later, Fernan learns from Hyde that Armina has defeated Varen, just like he had been expecting. Hyde explains that Varen's swordsmanship was a little bit better, but Armian's aura overwhelmed him. That intrigues Fernan because the prophecy said that Armian would win by a narrow margin, and that must mean he must have used the elixir. Suddenly, Hyde asks Fernan if this victory is because of the elixir he gave him, so Fernan admits that the elixir had some effects. To understand, Hyde asks if he's saying that Armian would have won without the elixir, but Fernan tells him there's no way to be sure. Fernan is glad that the prophecy is coming to pass because he knows Varen will soon be possessed. This is the perfect opportunity for him to gather evidence that demons exist. Eventually, he tells Hyde to watch Varen for the time being to track the places he visits, the people he makes contact with, and the things they say. Hyde finds it odd that they're tracking Varen and not Armina, but Fernan is actually interested in knowing how a demon that disappeared 1,000 years ago returned to their world. From that time onwards, Fernan keeps receiving regular reports about Varen's whereabouts. According to the reports, Varen has been going to the bathroom an awful lot and at random times. It's been 2 weeks since Fernan started watching Varen, but for some reason, nothing has happened. Eventually, he becomes worried that this isn't right because something major should be happening now. Later on, he decides to go through the reports again, and he wonders why Varen keeps going to the bathroom so much, and he wonders if it's Hyde that's not taking the reports seriously. He also wonders if the part of the prophecy where Varen got possessed is wrong, and he knows he may need to be wary of fully trusting the prophecies if that's true. Normally, after being defeated by Armian, Varen should be in deep frustration. Finally, he'd meet Armian at the midterm exams and suddenly attack him. According to the prophecy, Armian won't lose to Varen since he's defeated him once, especially since he has Gardner, the greatest teacher, by his side. After cutting down Varen, demonic energy will begin to leak out of him, but Armian wouldn't be able to recognize that his own body and mind will be influenced by that. Suddenly, Fernan wakes up and realizes it's morning, so he guesses he must have fallen asleep. It appears that the prophecy had been replayed in his dream, but he's still worried that he was unable to see when Varen gets possessed. All he knows is that it happens after Armian loses to Armian in the midterms. Suddenly, he also realizes that the day of the first-year Night Department midterm practical exam is today. Shortly after, Hyde enters and proposes that Fernan have breakfast. However, the butler is shocked to see Fernan retrieve several magical weapons from a magical portal. When Fernan notices him, he asks Hyde to escort him to the first-year Night Department's midterm exam so he can observe it. However, Hyde explains to him that he was summoned to the estate of the Duke, so Fernan realizes he'll have to go with someone else. Hyde asks who else he'll go with since he barely has any friends in the academy, but Fernan insists that he does. Hyde points out that he's referring to a friend he bought with money, and it's true. Fernan goes to meet Rowena and he asks her to escort him to gather elixirs. She wonders why he has to go that day since exams are happening then, but Fernan insists that the elixirs will get weaker if he doesn't gather them now. Regardless, Rowena tells him that she has to study for her exams, so Fernan offers to remove the interest on the Birchieve debt for a few months, even until she graduates, and Rowena agrees before he completes his statement. They soon head out, and Rowena learns that they're heading to the Northern Mountain region. Surprised, Rowena reminds him that the place is being used as a site for the first year's midterm exams, and they could be disciplined for violating the school rules if they enter. Regardless, Fernan assures her that there's nothing in this world that money can't buy. It intrigues Rowena that Fernan would be speaking so boldly about bribery, and she has a strong feeling that it must be the shameless Professor Grad that has taken the bribe for this to be done. However, Fernan gives her a smile and confesses he likes Professor Grad's flexibility. Suddenly, Rowena turns back towards the dorms, surprising Fernan. He asks her why she's turning away, especially since they won't get caught for breaking the rules, and further asks if she's going back on her word as a knight. Eventually, Rowena responds that she's heading back inside to bring her sword because she forgot it. Shortly after, they reach the site of the midterm exams and have to hide their presence so the professors and teaching assistants don't find them. Both of them look at some first years sparring from behind a bush, and Fernan realizes that wandering around will get him in trouble even though he bribed Professor Grad. It annoys Rowena that he would go ahead to do all this knowing it's wrong, but Fernan simply asks her to keep living like a good kid. He soon pulls out a map to know where Armian would be and finds out from that map that Armian is ranked 2nd and is stationed close to Varen, who is ranked 3rd. Hoping that he hasn't missed the action, they rush to the place. While on the way, Rowena points out that Fernan was just holding a professor's map, which is against the rules. She asks him how much he paid the professor, but Fernan just asks her to follow quietly. While moving, they hear something like the cry of a monster, and Rowena goes to check on the first years in the area. Fernan tries to stop her because it's dangerous to go alone, but she's long gone before he can finish his statement. Eventually, our guide tracks her down and sees her crouched over some unconscious first years who look like they've been attacked by a monster. The students are alive because of the defensive magic on the map, but Rowena finds this odd because the monsters in this area aren't usually violent. Fernan becomes worried that the demon attack had begun much sooner than he calculated, and he realizes he's not kept tabs on Varen's state recently. Suddenly, they both see a wild explosive power released in front of them, and Rowena wonders what is going on. Rowena asks Fernan where on earth they are right now, and when she looks to her side, she sees a huge monster running towards them. With one swift movement, she slices off the monster's hand and shows it who's boss. However, the monster keeps running towards her even after losing one hand, and Rowena wonders why it isn't stopping even after losing one arm. As the monster rushes towards her, the earth underneath suddenly explodes and it's launched backwards. It turns out that Fernan had triggered the explosion, and he launches several rocks as projectiles to finish off the monster from behind. The stones pierce the monster's back, but it keeps running forward, and Rowena is forced to jump out of the way. Eventually, the monster goes headlong into the tree that was behind her, and she lands next to Fernan. Confused, Rowena asks Fernan what on earth they're fighting with, so he explains to her that the monster is going berserk and can't feel any pain. Berserk monsters are a completely different breed from normal ones because their only goal is to kill every living being they come in contact with, and the only way to kill them is to chop off their heads. After crashing into the tree, the monster turns back towards them and gets ready for another fight. Still confused, Rowena asks Fernan why the monster went berserk. Suddenly, our boy recalls that the prophecy had said that monsters around would go berserk because of the presence of a demon. While the professors and the instructors are busy dealing with the unexpected shift in atmosphere, Varen is going to attack Armian with the demonic powers he receives. It is at this point of struggling with a foe that's much stronger that Armian will awaken. Fernan recalls some dramas and recalls that such problems always arise simultaneously around the main character when they face a crisis. He realizes this is just how it happens in those dramas and smiles, but Rowena wonders why the heck he is smiling when she just asked him why the monster is going crazy. Fernan asks her to just join him to focus on taking down the persistent monster for now, but Rowena knows he knows something from the smug look on his face. Meanwhile, Armian bests Varen in the duel once more, and Varen hates the fact that he's lost to Armian once more. When Armian turns around to leave, Varen stops him and tells him this isn't over yet, but Armian assures him it's over because he tells Varen that he's lost. This shocks Varen to his bones, and the overwhelming thoughts of a way he can win fill up his mind. He recalls that he's failed the expectation of the prince, and he recalls that he's failed his family too. If he loses this duel too, he realizes he might lose his position as the family heir. He realizes he has to win, and he wishes for a way to defeat Armian. As Armian walks away, Varen launches at him with a strong resolve and tells him to stop. Armian notices his attacker charging at him with great wrath, but he only smiles. When Varen comes close, Armian cuts him down like a pack of cards. When Varen collapses, Gardner asks Armian why this Varen guy always charges at him like he's trying to die. He wonders why he can be so weak and unable to accept his defeat with grace. Because he considers him a disgraceful bastard who has lost chivalry, Gardner asks Armian to just kill the boy. Gardner calls the boy a vermin who will tarnish the honor of the knights if he lives, but Armian decides against killing him. As he walks away, he reminds Gardner that this is not a real battle, but an exam. Meanwhile, Rowena and Fernan manage to take down the monster. Fernan realizes the monster wasn't so big a deal as he had thought, and Rowena tells him they need to forget about his elixir. She suggests they leave this place to the professors and instructors and get out quickly. However, Fernan insists he can't give up so easily, and he says they're going to cut through the horde of monsters and head west. Confused, Rowena asks him if he's lost his mind, but he doesn't see why she's overreacting when she just took down a berserk monster. He points out that the monsters are only persistent, but they're not impossible to kill, so Rowena asks him if he had somehow anticipated this when he requested an escort. Even though that's true, Fernan lies and says that he didn't and asks her how he could have predicted this. Eventually, she explains that she doesn't believe this is right and asks if the elixir is more important than his life. Our boy admits that the elixir indeed is more important and runs deeper into the forest, leaving her no choice but to follow after him as she rains curses on him. After moving forward a bit, Rowena asks Fernan if they've reached the place with the elixir he's looking for, and he tells her they have. Meanwhile, Fernan notices Varen's unconscious body and realizes he's missed the fight with Armian. When Rowena notices Varen's unconscious body, she rushes to help and informs Fernan that someone is lying there unconscious. Fernan quickly tries to stop her from getting too close, but she doesn't listen and goes to turn Varen on his back. When she sees his face, she realizes who it is and wonders who could do this to a student as skilled as Varen. She soon tells Fernan that it looks like the boy passed out while fighting, so she asks him to come help her carry him up. However, Fernan starts to become jittery, and he warns her to get away from Varen immediately. Rowena wonders what the heck he's talking about and states that they can't leave a collapsed person on the ground. She reminds him that Varen can get attacked by a berserk monster, and she suggests they move him to a safe space. While she's talking, she doesn't notice when Varen gets up behind her. When she sees him, she jumps backward out of shock, especially because of the strange aura he's emitting. She realizes she's never sensed such an aura before and wonders if this is really Varen. When she gets back to Fernand's side, he explains to her that it's demonic energy. Confused, she asks him how he'd be emitting the dark energy that demons give out. Fernand tells her that Varen has been possessed by a demon. Suddenly, Fernand realizes that something is wrong. According to the prophecy, Varen is supposed to attack Armian once he awakens. However, based on the look of things, it's clear that they're now his target. When he points that out to Rowena, she asks if he's really saying a demon has taken over Varen's body to appear in their world. She wonders how he knows that, but Fernand keeps his eyes on Varen and realizes he's completely lost his mind. Rowena points out that they need to subdue Varen first, so Fernand touches her from behind and asks her to keep Varen engaged for 10 minutes. Shocked, she turns back to look at him but realizes he's long gone. Immediately, the possessed Varen leaps towards her with his sword, and Rowena curses at Fernand and calls him a bastard. As she swings into action, Rowena tries to jolt Varen back to reality by telling him she's the one, but he doesn't listen. The two engage in a sword fight, releasing bright and dark energy respectively. As their swords clash, Rowena realizes her opponent is strong and she figures out that she'll end up pushed back if they fight at this level. Suddenly, she emits a bright aura that pushes Varen on his back, so she jumps over to him to try to get him to come back to normal. However, it doesn't work and Varen reaches for his sword to continue the fight. When he attacks her once more, Rowena is forced to retreat and Varen gets up, with black energy pouring out of every fiber in his body. Eventually, he rushes towards her to land his next attack, so Rowena rushes at him to counter it. From a distance, a release of bright and dark aura can be seen while they're fighting. Soon, Rowena realizes that her aura is depleting quickly because of the continuous demonic aura that Varen's body is releasing. She wonders what she can do, especially because she'll soon run out of aura at this rate. When she suddenly gets an idea, Fernand appears behind Varen and signals to Rowena. Fernand's voice catches Varen's attention too, and the demonized boy growls at him, full of rage. In the blink of an eye, Rowena uses Varen's head as a stepping stone to jump over to Fernand's side, and she runs after him. Fernand tries to lead her in the right direction, but she reproves him about ditching her and randomly showing up again. She asks him why he ran away, so Fernand explains that it's because they're facing a demon. It annoys Rowena that Fernand would admit to running away to save himself, and she mentions that he should be ashamed of himself, but Fernand tells her he didn't run away. He explains that he didn't run away, but he set up a trap to capture Varen, because it's not easy to stop him in a fight. Since Varen is hot on their tails, Fernand is certain that he'll fall into the trap shortly. Immediately, Varen steps on something that seems like a man, and an explosion is triggered that launches him into the air. After being launched into the air, a magic circle appears above Varen and sends him down in a bath of fire. Surprised, Rowena cautions that there's no need to go that far because Varen could die from all that. However, Fernand explains that Varen won't die and he tells her to look at him. From the look of things, Varen soon gets up and burns with greater anger, and it's clear they've only managed to annoy him. Immediately, Rowena tries to tell Fernand that she realizes something after fighting Varen, but Fernand decides to use a certain skill he hadn't planned to use. Our boy brings out a crystal and casts a spell that overpowers the magic circle Varen is standing under. With the greater power, a sea of fire rains down on Varen and pushes him to the ground. With Varen on the ground, Fernand gloats that his method worked and he finally breathes a sigh of relief. Oddly, Rowena wonders why he considers this a success when he has just used up very expensive items and has now experienced a loss. Regardless, Fernand points out that desperate times require desperate measures. Rowena insists that they could have taken Varen down if they worked together without any fancy stuff, but Fernand asks what she's talking about since it's clear this guy is possessed by a demon. He reminds her about his black skin, bloodshot eyes, and immense demonic energy. Regardless, Rowena explains that Varen looked like he had the vibes and ability to destroy the worlds, but he's still Varen foundationally. Suddenly, Fernand recalls that Armian was able to take down Varen according to the prophecy, while still being a first-year student who hasn't fully awakened his abilities. Since Rowena is stronger than Armian, and with Armian having a similar strength to the demonized Varen, it's clear that Rowena would be stronger than the demonized Varen. Immediately, it's like Fernand's reality shatters and he realizes he's made a mistake. Meanwhile, Rowena reminds him that he didn't listen to her when she told him she had an idea to stop the monster. Fernand realizes he couldn't hear her because he was so fixated on dealing with the demon. When he starts to calculate the price of the materials he used for the trap, he becomes pale and Rowena tries to bring him back to reality. Suddenly, Varen stands up again while they're talking and jumps towards them. Annoyed by how much he lost, Fernand punches Varen in the face and knocks him back to the ground. After Varen goes unconscious again, Fernand wonders what kind of piece of crap demon this is, but Rowena cautions him for being so violent. Varen asked Fernand if that was really him, saying that this definitely cannot be right. Fernand responded that the recording sphere records the scene exactly as it was and that there is no way it can be fabricated. He said he did not remember anything after coming from his fight with Ain Armian. Fernan stated that it was exactly the reason why he was kindly explaining it to him now. Fernan explained that after Varen lost his fight with Ain Armian, he was possessed by a demon and attacked them. Varen stated that he had never even met a demon, so how were they so sure he got possessed by one? Fernan answered that he had seen the recording sphere, so he should know that he was hit head-on by a bomb that he triggered. Then dozens of magic arrows pierced his body, and a pillar of fire made from hellfire burned him whole. The fact that Varen was still alive after all of that was because demonic energy protected his body. Varen agreed with Fernan that he was right, and that it was a miracle he was not dead. Fernan revealed that they had used a lot of things trying to stop Varen's demonized self. Varen said that if Fernan was talking about the artifacts used to stop him, then he would definitely pay for them. Fernan added that it was not just about the money and artifacts, but his mental trauma was also intense, and he started putting on a whole spiel. Varen understood Fernan's concern and stated that he got it, asking what he could do for Fernan. Fernan responded that it was a very simple thing Varen had to do. Fernan held up a slave contract, saying that he just had to sign it and everything would be forgotten. Varen looked at the document and stated that it was literally a slave contract. However, the terms of the contract were a bit too much for him. Fernan sarcastically said that Varen was not appreciating his senior's kindness in trying to resolve this quietly for his sake. In that case, Fernan had no choice but to handle the matter by the book and had to take the recording sphere to the Inquisitors. Varen looked surprised when he heard the name of the Inquisitors. Apparently, the Inquisitors were an organization directly under the Emperor, whose primary goal was to find and annihilate demons under the great cause of demon annihilation. They once wielded absolute power, but now that 1,000 years had passed and the existence of demons was all but forgotten, they were merely a figurehead organization. Fernan told him that the Inquisitors were looking for a chance to bring themselves back into the spotlight, and that they would definitely be delighted to see this recording. Varen got enraged and shouted at Fernan that he had nothing to do with demons. Fernan said that since he consorted with a demon, he would naturally be expelled from the academy, further scaring Varen. Fernan also wondered what he thought his father, Marcus Kalbender, would do about his son, who sold his soul to a demon, and that he might be disowned. Varen got hold of the pen instantly, putting his signature down and saying that he would be in his care, calling him master. Luina just wondered if it was really okay to wrap this up among themselves, since it would have been better to inform the professors. Fernan told her that now was not the right time to do so. Whether Varen became a demon willingly or was manipulated, or even the reason why, they had not figured it out. And if he was being controlled by someone, it meant that there was someone inside the academy colluding with demons. If this incident became public, they might lay low, and that would make it harder for them to find. Luina asked Fernan if he was planning to investigate this matter further himself, but she wondered why they would target academy students specifically. Fernan stated that it was just a guess, but the academy was the perfect place where the Empire's most promising talents gathered. She got angry, saying that it was the same as trying to destroy the Empire's future. She further added that she would not stand by and that he could call her anytime he needed help exterminating demons. Fernan thought that this was great because from now on he would not have to offer her interest-free deals, and that she would probably only realize later just how dumb of a promise that was. After the exam, all the students at the academy were looking at a board talking about how all professors and assistants had been mobilized to calm the monster rampage incident, and that the exam had been canceled halfway through for the night department. But there was no way to cancel the midterm exam itself, and all practical exams were replaced with written ones. The students seemed to curse this arrangement, calling it awful out of anger. And since the academy's grades originally weighed practical skills more than written ones, for the students who had been focusing on practical studies, written exams for all subjects were bound to be a significantly considerable burden, and even Ain't was no exception to this arrangement. Gardner whispered in Ain't's ear that it was strange, no matter how much he thought about it. Ain't asked what he meant. Then Gardner responded that the monster rampage from before was definitely the work of a demon, as he could feel the demonic energy, but the demon itself never appeared. Ain't stated that it must not have been the work of a demon then. However, Gardner found it impossible and further told him time and time again that the demons were going to reappear. This was the precise reason why the first emperor had placed him here in the first place, as the demons would always be targeting Ain't. Ain't, with a surprised face, asked Gardner the reason for him being targeted by the demons. Gardner asked if he really did not know. He then revealed that to the demons the name Armian was an enemy etched deep into their bones. If it weren't for the Armians, they would have had this world in the palm of their hands. So this time, the demons would surely try to wipe out the Armian bloodline first, so he should never let his guard down and should keep following his guidance. Ain't, a little scared, asked if he was what the demons were after. At the same time, in Fernan's dorm, he was screaming his lungs out and stated that his head felt like it was going to split. Hyde asked him what was wrong. As Fernan had his face first on his desk, a new prophecy was revealed. The first-year common required subject, field survival skills, happened right after the midterms. Thinking that there would be a spiritual herb given by the former emperor, Ink took the bait. As he entered a cave by himself, he finally found it. But there was a spiritual beast guarding it, and Gardner told him that it was too much and advised him to make a run for it. They ended up defeating the beast though, and when the spirit beast died, the area behind it collapsed, and through the gap, mithril ore revealed itself. Ink and Gardner got really excited by the mithril vein. It was revealed that the mithril vein was called the metal blessed by mana. But it was not just that, it was also the same thing that Gardner's blade was made out of. And thanks to that, his soul was able to inhabit it. Fernan lived surprised as he was reading the prophecy, saying that if this was a metal that could house a soul, he would absolutely make it his own, no matter what. Luina was eating a piece of chocolate and stated that the last time it was a spiritual potion, and now it was a spiritual herb. Fernan told her he lied to her last time, but this one was indeed real. She could not believe he admitted to lying so easily. If they went to survival training, they would have to skip class for a week. He said he had prepared a way to make up for the missed classes, and if she did it, he would take care of everything. She stated that she would not do it, and he said he would waive their interest. However, she was firm, saying she would definitely not do it. She didn't know about other things, but she would not miss class. Luina could not believe that Fernan would skip a whole week just for a spiritual herb, and she thought that he sure was something else. He told her that she did not have to do it and that he would go ask someone else. Someone entered the room saying that it had been a while. As he called out to Fernan, he greeted him with a cheerful smile. Luina immediately recognized the man, and it was revealed that his name was Jace Vines. Jace laughed, saying that he did not expect Fernan to not be alone, and he greeted Luina, saying the same thing he said to Fernan about the mana. He then asked if Fernan was okay with Jace calling him brother. Fernan said that he had been alright, asking how life was at the academy. Jace answered that he was still a first year and that there was still a lot to learn for him. Luina was just confused, asking if the two of them were close. Fernan said that she looked genuinely surprised, and Jace said that it was understandable and only natural. She said it was not natural at all and added that she understood what Jace's position was at the church. He was the saint of the dragon god church. People bowed to him, so there was no reason for a saint that everyone praised to be associated with a money-hungry demon. Jace laughed, saying that she must not know, since she was not a mage. The dragon god church once worshipped the ancient dragon who gifted magic to mankind. But over time, they came to worship mana and magic itself, and most of their followers were mages. Because of that, they had become a very powerful mage organization. To become an archmage, one must be acknowledged by the Pope of the church, and that was how much authority they had. Luina interrupted him, saying that she knew all of that, but that still didn't answer how he and Fernan were close. Jace answered that he needed to finish what he was saying first. He continued that since the church was made up of mages, running it usually took an enormous amount of funding, and that Fernan's family was the church's biggest supporter. Countless magical items created by the church were funneled into their merchant guild. The Dragon God Church and the Pellenberg family were completely intertwined. Jace added an old saying, that a rich person is one's elder. Fernan corrected him and stated that Jace was technically older than him, and Jace agreed. Luina, however, refused to believe that he was the saint and considered him to be more like a spoiled, rich brat. Jace started crying, saying that her words were harsh and stung him. Luina got worried and apologized for her slip of the tongue and called Jace a saint. In an instant, Jace's mood changed and he started laughing, telling her that he was just kidding. Luina said that she understood their relationship now and started going on her way. Jace asked her why she was leaving when they had just met. She answered that she did not plan to get involved in this. He told her that if she changed her mind, she could come back anytime, and he bid her goodbye. She was definitely upset. After she left, Jace then asked Fernan why he had called him there. Fernan said they were going to be gathering spirit herbs during the first year's field survival training and that he needed his assistance. Jace said that it did sound tempting, and Fernan laughed, asking if he was trying to take it for himself. Jace denied it, saying that he would not risk their relationship over a single herb, but asked if they really needed to gather the herb during the training. With his skills, Jace could have sneaked in beforehand and done it. Fernan said he would have done it if he could, but unfortunately, he had not pinpointed its exact location. Technically, the information from the prophecy should be enough to locate it. There were 7 lakes in the southern forest where the first-year field training would take place. He had been channeling mana into the bottom of all 7 lakes these past few days to find a mana vein, but he had yet to find any mithril vein. It was clear that the cave had been magically hidden and no ordinary kind of magic would be able to find it. While it was annoying as hell, he had to follow Ain't until he guided them there. Jace said that students not involved in the training area were not allowed to be there. He added that there would be a lot of people, so it would be hard to sneak around unnoticed. Fernan said that was why he signed up to be a teaching assistant for the first year's training. Jace said that he didn't think he'd be able to, as he had heard the requirements were strict. Fernan responded that it was pretty unusual for a second year to assist, but he got talked to Rosalia about it and it was not against the rules, so he got permission in the end. Jay said that he really was a merchant through and through. Fernan asked him if he was in. Jay said that only if he promised to give him plenty of money, then he would be there. Jace then pulled out a contract to draft a clear compensation document. It was now time for their survival training, as all the students were prepared. Gardner told Ain't that he wanted to go over the plan one more time. The spirit herb was in Lake Farden to the west, and they would need to make it look like a coincidence, so they did not raise suspicion. So at first they would just wander around. Ain't then noticed something. Gardner asked if he was even listening to his instructions. Ain't pointed to Fernan and said that he was going to be assisting. Gardner said that there was no way he would be doing that since there was no money in it. Ain't then started wondering, saying that he was probably trying to get bonus points for assisting. Then he yelled out to Fernan, waving over at him. Grant immediately yelled back, saying that the training would begin in 30 minutes and that everybody needed to go to their positions. As Fernan was heading to his position, Ain't disappointedly said that he had really wanted to say hi to him. Gardner got jealous and asked what he even liked about that spoiled rich guy. Sometime later, we saw a doll dressed up as Fernan, and Jace told him to give it some of his blood and mana. As he did so, immediately turned into a clone of him, and Jace said that it sure did look convincing. Fernan said he thought it would pass and that it wasn't that bad. Jace reminded him that he was the top of his class, and that he used this spell all the time to sneak out past the Pope. Fernan was surprised that Jace tricked the Pope with his spell. Jace said that his clone had been caught by the Pope and that there was no way he could fool a legendary mage, but it would take him a few hours to realize. Until then, even he was not sure. Fernan thought that it was good enough to confuse the world's greatest mage. No wonder everybody called Jace a genius, and it would probably be a big help to Ain't in the future. But strangely, there was no mention of Jace in the prophecy at all. He wondered why that was, since he was talented and a member of the Dragon God Church, and it was only natural for humans to hate demons. The Dragon God Church especially despised them because apparently some demon had told the church that magic did not come from dragons but from demons. That pissed them off to the point that it became blasphemy, and they went insane and turned into a ravenous demon-fighting cult. However, Fernan still did not know if Jace would become Ain's ally in the future and wondered if he should invest in making it happen. As he left, he told Jace he was going to count on him, and Jace waved him goodbye. Fernan headed into the forest following Ain't. He said that since Ain't was heading west, the only lake there was Farden. He tapped his ear, telling somebody it was their turn now, and we saw none other than Varen using magic, who had the magic device on his ear as well. Ain't saw him wondering what he was doing there, and Varen low-key looked anxious. Ain't asked Varen what he was doing there again, saying that he knew Varen could not win against him. Varen knows that he cannot beat Ain't, but he does not want to keep looking pathetic. We get a flashback to Fernan telling him he has to stay close to him, and Varen asks why. Fernan tells him that he does not seem to understand the situation, and that he could put his life on hard mode if he wanted to. Varen says he does not want that, and he tells him that he cannot accept defeat. Ain't asks him if getting beaten twice was not enough, and Varen tells him that it does not matter if it is twice or even 100 times. Losing to him had ruined his reputation, and he will fight him again to reclaim his honor. As he starts releasing his aura, Gardner says that he's glad Varen has the spirit to keep challenging despite defeat. Ain't wonders why Gardner switched up like this, and Gardner says that Varen did not seem like much at first, but now he sees that he is a magnificent knight and tells Ain't to accept his challenge. Ain't sighs, saying that it's good and all, but this practical training prohibits clashes between participants. Embarrassed, Varen tells him that it does not matter. He only fights for honor. Gardner says that rules like that mean nothing because all a knight seeks is honor, and both he and Varen keep trying to convince Ain't to have another duel, which is making him confused about what to do. Fernan watches all of this, saying that this is good and that Varen should keep stalling while he takes care of his business, heading over to Lake Farden. Fernan is seen standing above it, and he says no one is around and a barrier is up. Even if he digs up the ground to find the mithril, there's no risk of noise leaking out. He says he should give it a try. He finally gets to use this magic, and he's really wanted to try it out. He needs to find the mithril before Ain't, so he doesn't have much time. Therefore, he prepared something quite special, as a ginormous magic circle appears on the ground. It's a summoning spell, and he tells his servant to rise. Fernan says the principle of magic tech brings together all magical techniques. A merchant's essence, infused with enormous amounts of money, gave rise to this big old boy. As he looks up, Fernan says that he's always wanted to have a golem, and this sure is cool. Fernan names the golem James and orders James to find the mithril. It's clear from Fernan's face that he's having fun. Back to Ain't, Varen tells him that he cannot pass until he defeats him. He starts clinging to Ain's foot, asking if he's really just going to stand there and watch when he had gotten this far. Ain't is annoyed, wondering how long it has been. Gardner asks why he could be so narrow-minded as a descendant of the Armians. Ain't tells him that it's enough and to quit acting like a child. Varen says he's not doing this because he wants to, and recalls how Fernan told him to last an hour, and if he cannot endure it, life will be tough. Ain asks what he meant by that. Realizing he cannot snitch, Varen says he loves doing this and absolutely loves people who trample on him and ruin his life. Ain is low-key getting freaked out, and Varen continues, saying he's so crazy about it that Ain should just hurry up and attack already. Ain kicks him in the face, asking what kind of freak he is, sending him flying backwards. Varen, crying, says that he is indeed a freak and that Ain needs to come at him. But Ain runs away, and Varen wonders if he lasted long enough. He looks down at his stopwatch, saying that he only needed to last an hour, and it's been an hour and 10 minutes, which means he did his part of the job. Back to Ain, Gardner asks why he was ignoring Mike's plea like that, and says that's not what he taught him. Ain says the rules say there's no fighting during training, and this cave is something that, if they're not actively looking for it, they'll never find. Gardner says that's obvious. If it were easy to find, everything would have been stolen already. Ain says that he senses something else here other than the spirit herbs. Gardner tells him to look down as we see the spirit herbs below. Ain says that they hit the jackpot. Meanwhile, deep inside the cave, Fernan is going crazy as he and James dig their way to the mithril, and they finally find it all. Ain says this is troublesome. They found the spirit herb, but they don't know how to get it out with that monster guarding it. Gardner says he didn't expect a water dragon to be here, and that it's not a good time. They should come back later when they have another chance. Ain says he's been in good form and that he could fight the water dragon. Gardner tells him that the water dragon will taste human flesh today and that Ain is way out of his league right now. The ground begins shaking from all the mining, and some of the rubble from the top of the cave breaks loose, landing all over the water dragon, causing it to wake up. It lets out one hell of a roar and starts rising up. Gardner says this is bad since it's woken up, and Ain looks up at it, saying that now running away is not an option and asks what they can do about this. The water dragon had finally woken up. Ain thought that at this point all he could do is fight and take the monster down, so he started drawing out his sword. Gardner stopped him from doing so as the water dragon was way out of his league and advised him to run away as quickly as he could for now. The water dragon gave a loud roar, which scared both Ain and Gardner. Gardner told Ain not to look back and to make a run for it, but Ain thought that it was already too late to run. So he leaped into the air, drawing out his sword to attack the water dragon. He started slashing the water dragon with his sword, trying to deliver a significant blow. However, Ain was shocked to see that none of his attacks had any effect on the dragon. The dragon started preparing for an attack. Ain began glowing with powerful yellow mana, ready to face the water dragon. The dragon launched its fire toward Ain, who tried to block the attack with his sword. All of a sudden, Ain's sword shattered, as the dragon's attack was far too powerful. The dragon attacked once more, and the ground shattered below, making Ain fall down. Meanwhile, Fernan and James were collecting the spirit herbs when Fernan heard all the noise. He understood that it meant the water dragon had woken up. He found it a bit strange as he had already fed it a ton of meat dosed with sleeping drugs, so how had it still woken up? While picking up a spirit herb, Fernan hoped that Ain had not gotten into trouble fighting the water dragon. Fernan was troubled by a deep thought. Since they had to face the demon-possessed Barry in there, Ain had lost his chance to awaken like in the prophecy. However, Fernan remembered that he had given Ain the Saint Bird's heart, so he would probably be fine on his own. When all the spirit herbs had been dug up, Fernan ordered James to leave the cave. Meanwhile, Ain was hanging onto the edge. He got up confused, thinking that he had almost died out there. Gardner reminded him that he had advised him to run away for this very reason. Ain responded that he also wanted to run, but the water dragon was just too fast to make a move, so he did not get a second's chance as the beast seemed intent on killing him. Gardner called Ain a fool and told him to be grateful, because if the ground had not shattered, he might have been the dragon's lunch by now. Ain asked Gardner about his performance in holding the dragon off a bit. Gardner was grateful to Fernan for giving Ain the Saint Bird's heart, which increases energy, making him stronger. Gardner noticed the spirit herb and pointed it out to Ain. Ain found it too far up, and it would take a lot of time to climb back out of there. Suddenly, Gardner sensed something. He advised Ain to go inside as he felt something strange coming from that direction. Ain did not feel any such presence, and Gardner became enraged and yelled at him to do as he said. They both went inside and found nothing, so Ain asked if that was the place where Gardner had felt the presence. Gardner told him that he was pretty sure something had been there. Ain turned around and suggested grabbing the spirit herb, when Gardner pointed something out. There was a light coming out of that thing, and they both decided to dig it up. As they started digging, a bright light was seen. They had found something valuable, which was clearly shown on Gardner's face, now filled with excitement. Back outside, Jace asked Fernan if he had found what he was looking for. Fernan confirmed it and asked if Jace had any trouble on his end. Jace told him that it was not much of a problem other than facing a few monsters. All of a sudden, a smirk appeared on Jace's face and Fernan realized what he meant. So he told Jace that their merchant group would be placing an order with the church for the exact amount written in the contract between them from last time. Hearing this, Jace's face lit up with happiness. He then set off, bidding farewell to Fernan. Fernan decided to rest for a while on a tree branch. He had a smile on his face as he had finally gotten a piece of mithril in his hands. Mithril is a rare metal that most people have not seen in their lifetime. Now all Fernan needed to do was find the right ore to go with it. Mithril had excellent mana absorption and conductivity, but it could not shine fully on its own, so it must be alloyed with another metal to truly unleash its potential. Any ordinary ore would not be suitable. The only one that worked best with mithril was none other than adamant, the hardest metal of them all. However, adamant was just as rare as mithril. Fernan did not know how he was supposed to get his hands on adamant, as it could not even be bought with money. He wondered if the prophecy would guide him to a daemon's location. While Fernan was thinking about the metal, a student came running from a pack of hellhounds, shouting out to him for help. But Fernan remained at ease. The student asked Fernan if he was going to keep ignoring him instead of saving him. So Fernan decided to help, but he stated that the student was an elf, so he knew that an elf would not be in any danger from a mere hellhound, implying that she had ulterior motives. She then jumped onto the branch Fernan was resting on. Fernan asked the elf to deal with the hellhounds because they were making a lot of noise. The elf then cast her magic, getting rid of the hellhounds. She asked if Fernan was happy with her performance. Fernan questioned the elf if she had been looking for him with a motive, and she answered with a smile on her face that it was just a coincidence she ran into him. Fernan then asked her to go away, so she revealed that she indeed had a purpose in coming to him. Fernan asked if she wanted to build some connections, considering he was from a Prince-Elector family. The elf's name was Aria Frieden. She asked him if her intentions were that obvious to him. Fernan revealed that he had heard she tended to flirt with the children of Prince-Elector families. Aria suggested being friends with Fernan, which he immediately declined. When she asked for a reason, Fernan told her that he was older than her. She believed it would be nice for Prince-Elector families to get along. Fernan did not see the need to get along just because they both belonged to Prince-Elector families. Aria revealed that the Friedens had only recently become Prince-Electors after replacing the Burkef family, so they wanted to get along with the other Elector families. Fernan asked her if she did not have any Prince-Electors in her own year, which was implied to refer to Ain't. She asked him if an elf could just live on meat, but that she ate fruit sometimes as well. Fernan smiled and thought that Aria didn't even think about who was going to pay, which was kind of shameless, but still positive. Aria told him that she wanted to be friends with all 6 Prince-Electors. Suddenly, they both heard a student down below. He was shouting to call the professor, as a water dragon had appeared out there. Fernan is in disbelief that the water dragon had come out of the cave. Aria finds it weird. How could a water dragon appear all of a sudden out of nowhere? She turns around to ask Fernan, but Fernan has already left to see the situation. She asks if he was just going to walk away like that. Fernan is worried about what has taken place. There was nothing in the prophecy about the water dragon coming out of the water and creating havoc. He also wonders, if the water dragon had come out, then what had happened to Ain't? The dragon is destroying everything, and the students are running away. All the first years are asked to fall back by the teaching assistant, who also asks Taz to protect the first-year students from the front. Gardner tells Ain't that the water dragon is after him because he took the spirit herb. Ain't, on the other hand, brushes his words off and states that the professors and Taz will take care of it and suggests getting out of there. They are all on their way when the water dragon appears behind Ain't. The dragon is about to attack him, but at the very last second, Fernan appears and stops the dragon's attack. He then counters the dragon, injuring it, but it still isn't enough to stop it. Fernan thinks that it's too much for them after all. All of a sudden, some people come and tell Fernan to rest while they handle the dragon. After a fierce battle, they manage to chase the dragon away. The students are in utter shock over all this. Fernan, on the other hand, is thinking if his interference triggered a change in the prophecy. However, he is relieved that Ain't, the one who will save humanity in the future, is safe, which is what matters most. On top of that, Fernan still has not gotten his investment back. He would be screwed if Ain't had died. Fernan turns back to Ain't, asking him if he's alright, only to find him looking at Fernan with bright eyes filled with tears. Ain't is deeply touched that Fernan came to save him. Fernan states that it's his job as a teaching assistant to protect the students at all costs. What matters most is that no one got hurt. Fernan tells Ain't to get his work done. Gardner reminds Ain't that they have business with Fernan, so he cannot let him go. Ain't stops Fernan as he wants to talk to him about something for a minute. When Fernan asks him the reason, Ain't tells him they should continue the conversation in private. They both head to a place where no one can hear them, and Fernan asks what Ain't wants to talk about. Ain't asks him if his merchant guild also deals in ores. Fernan confirms that they do and asks if Ain't wants to buy some ores. Fernan jokingly imitates Ain't, saying that he can't afford to buy ores but has something to sell. Ain't finds his words to sting a little, but they are still true. Fernan is ashamed of what he just said and wonders if he could get expelled if Ain't were to submit a complaint about his behavior. Fernan apologizes to Ain't and asks if he hurt his feelings by commenting on his financial status. He adds that it wasn't intentional and Ain't shouldn't take it to heart. Ain't responds that he knew it was a joke. Gardner cannot believe that a spoiled person like Fernan could actually apologize to someone. Fernan then asks what Ain't wanted to sell him. Ain't smiles and shows the ore he wants to sell. The ore is none other than adamant. Fernan had just been stressing over how to acquire adamant before the dragon came, and now it was in Ain's hands. Fernan feels lucky but chooses to stay calm as he hasn't gotten the adamant yet. He confirms if Ain't really wants to sell him the adamant and asks how he got the ore in the first place, as it is extremely rare. Ain't is impressed at how calm Fernan is after seeing adamant, implying that he must be super rich. He tells Fernan that he can't reveal how he got the adamant, but he promises it wasn't acquired by any illegal means. He adds that he has more of it, but his subspace is full, so he prefers to sell this piece. Fernan is shocked to hear that Ain's subspace is full and is now certain that he got the adamant from the underwater cave. Ain't didn't get mithril, but he was lucky enough to get adamant. Fernan is impressed and feels Ain't has the presence of a true protagonist with loads of luck. Still, Fernan wonders what kind of cave would have both mithril and adamant. Ain't starts to reveal his conditions to Fernan, but Gardner advises him to be careful, warning that the Fillenbergs are the kind of people who would steal his nose if he blinked, so he should not agree to anything if Fernan tries to negotiate. Ain't, however, doesn't listen to a word Gardner says and continues to state his conditions. Fernan agrees to all of them without any further questions. Gardner is dumbfounded to hear Fernan agree so quickly. Fernan questions Ain't, saying that he could have gotten more if he had auctioned off the adamant, so why sell it to him? Ain't responds that he prefers to get rid of it quickly. Adamant is a rare ore, so if word got out that he had it, he would be targeted from all directions. Furthermore, Armani is not strong enough to protect something like this. Fernan asks him if he thinks he is strong enough to protect the adamant. He even asks what if he killed Ain't and took the adamant for himself, trying to confuse him. Ain't smiles and says that Fernan clearly gave him the Saint Bird's heart and even fought the water dragon to save him, so there's no way Fernan would kill him. Ain't is sure that Fernan wouldn't be the one to kill him. Fernan realizes that Ain't trusts him a lot, which is the result of saving him. Fernan places a hand on Ain't and assures him that he cares about his junior. Ain't responds that he knows. Fernan reminds Ain't that he saved his life from the water dragon, so Ain't must always keep that favor in mind if he ever gets the urge to turn Fernan into a beggar someday, and Ain't agrees. Fernan smiles and heads off, saying he will prepare the contract and be in touch soon. After Fernan leaves, Ain't recalls his words and wonders what he meant by them. Then he brushes it off, thinking Fernan might have gone crazy after seeing the adamant. Back at his home, Fernan's servant walks into his room and notices the piles of adamant and mithril Fernan is sitting on. Fernan mocks him a bit, asking if he's never seen them together before. The servant